What is up, guys? My name is Jasonankin and this is my YouTube channel. What I've decided to do, if you've been following my channel from the past, you'll know that I do a few videos on the Myers-Briggs personality test. And you'll know that I've done a few videos on my personality type specifically, which is the INTJ, the Introverted Intuitive Thinking Judging type. Over the last couple of years, I've been studying more deeply into the, MBTI and the different types, and specifically more about the cognitive functions. And obviously, I've learned more about my type specifically. So I've decided to create a video series, and I'm going to do 4 videos. And in each video, I'm going to cover one of the 4 cognitive functions that make up the ego of the INTJ. So the 4 cognitive functions are introverted intuition, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, and extroverted sensing. So I'm going to dedicate a video teaching you about all of the 4 cognitive functions that make up the INTJ personality type, specifically from my perspective. I've got a bunch of notes here, a bunch of checklists I'm going to get through. These are all the points that I want to cover. And so let's get at it. So yes, the first function of the INTJ personality type is introverted intuition. This is known as, it's in our hero position. So the hero position is the top function. It is our dominant function. So yes, INTJs are known as introverted intuitive dominance, meaning it's the function that we lead with. So there are 2 types of functions within the MBTI. There are judgment functions and there are perceiving functions. Judgment functions are thinking and feeling. They're about making decisions. And perceiving functions are basically how you observe things, and they include intuition and sensing. Now the judgment functions are considered rational, and the perceiving functions are considered irrational. So INTJs lead with introverted intuition, which is basically an irrational perceiving function. If I'm to give a quick explanation of how I would define introverted intuition, I would define it in really, if I could boil it down to one key word, the word that I would use to describe introverted intuition is insight. Now what I mean by this, the definition that I give to this, is being able to look at the underlying causes to the external effects. So in the world we see the physical reality, but behind that physical reality there are these mechanics that are going on behind the scenes, these principles or rules that govern the facts that we observe. Introverted intuition is basically the function that doesn't observe or perceive what's going on the surface, but goes that little bit deeper to try and understand what's going on behind the surface, to try and understand why something is occurring or why it is the way that it is. So that's how I would define introverted intuition, is basically insight, being able to observe the underlying causes to the external effects. Being an introverted intuitive dominant type, it is also the rarest. It is the rarest function out of all of the personality types. The 2 rarest personality types in MBTI are the INTJ and the INFJ. And the INTJ is an introverted intuitive dominant type, and so is the INFJ. So we make up about approximately 2 to 4% of the population. So it's a very, very rare function, sometimes referred to as the tip of the spear. Within the MBTI world, it's kind of seen as this much more, it gives us a huge edge, it gives us a huge advantage over all of their types because of the way that this function works, and it's very unique, it's very rare, and it's almost, it gives us a certain way of looking at things that the vast majority of people just don't see, and it gives us a kind of advantage. So yes, NI is not only is it the rarest function, but it makes us much more future orientated. A way that you could describe this is by using the word teleological. So the word teleological means with the end in mind. So introverted intuitives are naturally very future orientated. I believe it's statistically been shown that the average INTJ plans at least 10 years into the future. I can verify this, but I would actually go a step further and say I've planned basically my whole life. I've got a general idea of what I I've actually set a goal of living until I'm 90. Whether I ever make that goal, I don't know. But it's good to set something like that ahead of yourself. And I'm currently 33 right now, so I'm in the second third of my life, and I have a general idea of what I want to do in the second third of my life, and I have a general idea of what I want to do in the final third of my life. It's not all specifically meticulously planned out step by step, but it's a general end goal, and it makes us extremely future orientated. We're always thinking about how to achieve a goal. Almost imagine you're trying to climb to a mountain. The INTJ type's always focused on getting to the top of the mountain no matter what. And because it's such a future orientated function, it means that being an introverted intuitive really gives us a large amount of willpower. There's a really famous quote by a French emperor called Napoleon Bonaparte, and he came up with this quote that basically said, "I see only the objective, the obstacle must give way." And I believe Napoleon was an ENTJ personality type, the commander type. So his second function was NI, but it was obviously close enough that he still has this kind of drive and willpower. So yes, because it's so end focused, because we see only the objective, all obstacles must get out of the way in order for us to accomplish our goal. Whatever it is, I'm going to go over the obstacle, go under the obstacle, go around the obstacle, or go through it. It doesn't matter. Once I'm set, like a pit bull that grabs onto something, I do not let go of an objective until I accomplish it, no matter how long it takes. If it's taken me twice as long to achieve an objective, or 3 times as long, or 4 times as long, it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep pursuing that objective persistently, consistently over an extended period of time. And it's because we're so future oriented, because we have the end in mind, it becomes this kind of infinite source of willpower. Another way to look at it is basically because we're so future oriented, you could even say that introverted intuition is kind of prophetic. What I mean is it gives us the capacity to predict things in the future. It's something I would actually like to do in this video, is to actually, just as a kind of a thought experiment, nothing serious, but just to kind of come up with some predictions over the next 5 or 10 years of what could occur within society or in the world. And if I make an accurate prediction, who knows, in 5 or 10 years, people would see this video and be like, look, he predicted it, or whatever. So it's something that I've thought about maybe doing prophecy videos on this channel, just as a fun thing to do. But because we're so future orientated, we tend to be able to see multiple steps ahead. And when we really think about something, it's almost like the logical path just opens itself out up in front of us, and we kind of just build this kind of future projection, and we kind of can see where things are going. So it can kind of give you a bit of ability to see into the future. And I'm not saying that you're always going to be accurate. Future predictions are always going to be estimations. You're never going to be able to predict the future with 100% accuracy. But with NI, you're going to increase the probability that you're going to be able to predict the future, because it's just more naturally orientated towards future perceptions and future thinking. Another way that I like to describe NI is basically it helps us understand, look for the line of best fit. So there's this thing within statistics called a scatter graph, and basically you'll have an x and a y-axis, and you have all of these variables that are scattered amongst the graph. And then what you'll do is you'll basically look for a line of best fit through all of this various data. So if I was to study multiple different disciplines, like all these different disciplines, philosophy, psychology, religion, science, politics, history, what I'm trying to do is trying to find the balance between all of those things. What is generally true? What is the line of best fit through all of these seemingly different pieces of information? And I think being an introverted intuitive enables us to do that very, very well. A good example of this would be the scientist Isaac Newton. He was believed to be an INTJ personality type, and he came up with these things called the 3 laws of motion. And the 3 laws of motion are basically the 3 laws that are used to understand all physical movement in the entire universe. So that's an amazing example of how an introverted intuitive type can use their introverted intuition to find this kind of balance point between all of these seemingly chaotic pieces of information. So the whole universe is this massive, interconnected system, and he was able to explain all physical movement summed up in these 3 universal principles. And that's a kind of an example of how you can use introverted intuition to basically find out first principles to things, so we can basically use them in a very utilitarian way. We can use them in infinite ways, including like engineering and science and spaceships and cars and stuff like that. The last way that I would describe introverted intuition, it's basically it's more like it sees the big picture. That's what I wanted to talk about. So think about it in terms of like the general, right? So the general is back in their bunker. All of the men are out in the field actually doing the battles, and the general is back in his bunker, and he's got this big giant table out in front of him. And the giant table has an exact replica of the battlefield that the soldiers are on right now. It's got all of the armies positioned in the right positions, and it's got the opponent's armies positioned in the right positions. And you have the general who's basically looking at this field map, and what they're trying to do is trying to tactically and strategically come up with the best strategy to win against their opponents. But what they're doing is they're looking at things from this kind of, almost from the clouds, looking down on the overall picture. And I think introverted intuition helps us do that really, really well. I tend to think in really, really big terms. Like I'm almost thinking in terms of literally right the way from the Big Bang all the way to this moment, and every different gradation in between. I want to try and be able to see the whole thing, or to see the whole world, or to see the whole history of humanity. I want to be able to see the big picture so that I can zoom into every slice and every detail and understand it, and then connect all of those bits together so that I have a full spectrum, complete understanding of things. And I think that introverted intuition enables us to do that really, really well. So that is it, guys. That's my explanation of what introverted intuition is as a INTJ. I'm going to produce an additional 3 more videos covering the I'm going to cover all 4 functions. So that's introverted intuition covered. The next function I'm going to be covering is extroverted thinking. After that's going to be introverted feeling, and then finally extroverted sensing. So I really thank you for watching this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. Watch the video right to the end, because it sort of helps boost the viewing and gets more people watching this content. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.